It's 6 a.m. A woman is being dragged in front of the entire camp. She tried to escape last night. She didn't make it far. He already knows what comes next. He's seen this exact moment close to 100 times. The guards don't rush. They want everyone to watch. They want everyone to remember. The woman doesn't scream, neither does anyone else. He keeps his head down and his face blank. That's the first rule you learn here. Not the one they tell you, the one you figure out when you're old enough to understand what that blank look on every face around you actually means. But today, something is different. Today, he is going to try what this woman just failed to do, and no one, not once, in the entire history of this camp, has ever done it successfully. His name is Shin Dong-hyuk. He is 23 years old, and he has never once in his life stood on the other side of that fence. Because Shin wasn't sent to Camp 14, he was born here. North Korea doesn't just punish the person who steps out of line. It takes the whole family, parents, children, grandchildren. 3 generations wiped into the camp system for a single act by a single person. Shin's uncle crossed the border into South Korea years before Shin existed. That's it. One man who left. For that, the entire family was seized and dumped inside Camp 14. And then, as a reward for good behavior, the camp permitted Shin's parents to marry. Not out of kindness, out of calculation. Shin was born inside the wire before he ever had a chance to exist outside it. His crime was existing. Camp 14 sits in a mountain valley in Kaechon. Officially, it doesn't exist. The North Korean government has never acknowledged it. But satellite images show it clearly, and survivor testimonies from other camps describe it in detail. Roughly 15,000 prisoners. No release possible. Unlike other political camps where re-education is at least the stated goal, Camp 14 has one purpose: erasure. Work the prisoners through coal mines, factories, and logging sites until they break. Then bury them inside the fence and move on. 2 ways out: die inside, or do something no one has ever done. A day in Camp 14 starts before dawn and ends well after dark. 16 hours of labor, 2 meals, corn porridge thin enough to see the bottom of the bowl, sometimes a bone floating in the water. The barracks are concrete, no heat, no bedding. 50 men sleeping on the floor in their work clothes, because that's the only way to stay warm. And you can't trust the person next to you. Food is so scarce that informing on fellow prisoners is a currency. A whispered tip to a guard, someone hiding food, someone lingering near the fence, earns a larger bowl at dinner. So everyone watches everyone. The guards barely need to surveil because the prisoners do it for them. Get caught breaking a rule? Beaten. Get caught trying to escape? You go to the execution site, publicly. Every prisoner forced to watch, not to punish one person, but to freeze the rest. Shin has stood in that crowd nearly 100 times, watched it work on the people around him. For 20 years, it worked on him too. Then a man sat down beside him in the textile factory and started talking. His name was Park. Before Camp 14, Park ran a Taekwondo center in Pyongyang. Had a wife, a son, a home with electricity that stayed on through the night. Then the famine hit, and he crossed into China just to eat. He stayed a year. When he came back, afraid that missing a national election would expose him, border agents were waiting. Him, his wife, his infant son, charged with espionage and illegal religious activity, sentenced to life. He never saw either of them again. But Park carried something into Camp 14 that the regime couldn't take from him: memory. He remembered streets with light, food that had flavor, people who looked at you like a human being. He told Shin all of it, and for the first time, Shin understood that what was beyond that fence wasn't just an idea. It was real. It existed. They started planning, carefully, in fragments, a glance across the factory floor, a few words during a meal, nothing that could be assembled into evidence by anyone listening. A single, overheard sentence, and both of them would be at the execution site within the week. But there was one problem. They kept circling back to the fence, 10 feet of wire. The standing belief inside camp, never confirmed, never tested, because testing meant dying, that it was fully electrified. Then Shin told Park what he'd been noticing at the firewood station. Miles from the main camp, out where the guards were spread thin, He'd been watching the fence every morning, attention shifting during breaks, slow enough that it looked like nothing, and he'd spotted a section of wiring that sat differently from the rest. A detail that suggested a weakness. He believed 2 people could get through it. He wasn't certain. The escape runs across one day, 3 windows, each one a door that locks behind you. Morning. Firewood station. Shin tracks the patrol gap, 10 minutes between sweeps, confirmed. Midday. Back in the barracks, he crosses to a garment cutter's mat and lifts a second winter uniform the man had sewn for himself, tucks it flat under his outer layer. He's barely settled when the door slams open. Inspection. No warning. Guards flood the room. Everyone scrambling upright. Line up, hands on heads. An elderly man near the door gets pulled forward. A guard finds rice bundled in cloth, saved for his grandson. The man tries to explain. The guard doesn't let him finish. A rod comes out, 10 strikes. The man goes down and doesn't get back up. Nobody moves, nobody reacts. You learn very early what happens when you do. The guard works down the line and stops at Shin. Hands at the shoulders, down the ribs, toward the uniform pressed flat against his body. Shin doesn't breathe. The hands slide past his waist, continue down his legs. Stop. Clear. Shin steps back into line, doesn't exhale for a long time. Dusk. Last patrol just passed. 10 minutes. They break from the trees. The fence ahead, barely visible in the dying light, ground hard and uneven with ice. Shin's foot catches a patch of it. He goes down hard. By the time he's up, Park is ahead of him. Wrong. Shin was supposed to lead. He found the specific point in the fence. Park doesn't know where it is, no way to call out. Park reaches the fence first, gets his hands into the wire and pushes through. Park's weight has bent the wire outward, opened a gap in the mesh. Behind them, prisoners at the tree line are watching, no decision left to make. He drops flat, uses Park's body against the wire as partial cover, and forces himself through the gap. His leg touches a live section. The pain is total. He comes out the other side into the snow. 3rd-degree burns from ankle to knee. And the only person who ever made the world beyond this fence feel real, dead on the wire behind him. He gets up, runs into the dark. Guards reach the fence in minutes. 2 sets of tracks in the sand, full alert. Shin is moving downhill on a destroyed leg with nothing ahead except mountains and cold. He finds a farm shed, forces the door. Inside, tools, hay, an old military uniform. Too big. He pulls it on, sits for just a moment. When he opens his eyes, daylight is already coming through the cracks in the wood. No dogs, no lights. He keeps moving. 3 weeks across North Korea. Freight trains, unmarked trucks, food he's never tasted, music playing from somewhere in a village he's never heard before. At the Chinese border, he bribes the guards with cigarettes and food, wearing the stolen uniform, claiming he's a soldier on leave visiting family. They wave him through. A year in China, hiding from officials who would have sent him straight back, Shin Dong-hyuk lands in Seoul, granted asylum, the first and only person to ever escape Camp 14. His story was published in a book called Escape from Camp 14. It forced international attention onto a prison system the North Korean government still officially denies exists. Shin eventually stepped back from public life. That kind of damage doesn't disappear just because the fences do. That escape wasn't just dangerous, it was physically impossible. Camp 14 is still running today. Right now, the world knows. That's the only thing that changed.